Previously on D7R TV.
Everybody, welcome back to D7R TV. It's been a minute since our last upload, which was the Sierra, but we've had general maintenance jobs and a few underbodies, which were vehicles, which are like everyday vehicles, so not really anything we really focus on. They're not really classic or performance orientated, so we didn't really film them. But today we've got something that might be right up your street, because it's definitely up my street. Here it is. Yes, Honda Civic FK2 Type R. These things are Larry out the box. I drove my friend Dan's one when it had about 500 miles on the clock. It was brand new, and I bought his Honda Civic Jordan off him to pay for his deposit for his brand new one of these. Then I drove his one of these and I was awestruck. What an incredible car. But they're starting to have a bit of time against them now. They're 5, 6, 7 years old now. So they're starting to wear a little bit underneath and show their age a little bit, but that's why it's here. We are going to be doing full underbody protection, and we're going to be doing a full service, bar intake filter, so your air filter, and spark plugs, because this car's just been remapped and the spark plugs are brand new. So that's the only things that we don't need to do or change, but we're going to be changing the gearbox oil, the engine oil, oil filter and cabin filter. So you might learn a thing or two. But as I said, we was underneath the car checking over everything and we found a few hidden nasties. Not that bad, but better to catch them early than later, because recently I restored the underbody of an EP3 Type R. It wasn't meant to be filmed, but that thing had near enough flaws and inner and outer sills done, and it was quite a big job. So this one doesn't need to get there, and neither does your car. So what we're going to be doing is an underbody protection on it. We're going to show you how, what we use, and hopefully keep yours in good order for years to come. So these are our weapons of choice. We're going to be using the Buswell chassis guard on the lower arms and all the suspension components and bits and bobs. We have cavity wax, we have underbody Schultz protection, we have zinc primers, epoxy based. We also have Genelite rust converter for the little scabs and surface rust we'll be treating, and brushes, etc. So this is what we will be using, and we will show you how to use them. Winning! Right, let's get to it. Underneath the car, and as you can see, the rear beam is starting to show signs of surface rust. Most cars tend to do that first, but it is what it is. That's not really a main concern, but up here is. So up underneath the boot and behind the seats, it's starting to show her age a little bit. This is a 2016 car, so as you can see, not everything is protected. I mean, they've got some sort of epoxy coating on them or whatever, but it clearly doesn't do a job. It's not as bad as it could be, but it's still quite bad. And it's starting to show age, and it's right at the start where you want to be protecting the vehicle. Just like an EP3, you've got these bungs here. There's numerous of them, there's about 10 either side. Then you've got these other ones for your inner sills. And we're going to be loading these with cavity wax to protect the inner sills, because these cars tend to rot from inside out. I've had a couple of these out and it looks pretty good inside. So, but yeah, as you can see, the surface rust is of a concern, and we're going to get it sorted. Lower arms and struts, uprights, everything else is all like aluminium. You got your anti-roll bar there, steel. It's got a little bit of surface rust on there. Your front crash bar or front subframe bar or whatever you call it, that's looking a little bit worse for wear, as you can see. So we'll be treating that with a lanolin. Up here, we'll have to take a lot of these underbody plastics off. We're going to drop the exhaust on this one as well, so we can get better coverage, because we're going to be wire wheeling this surface rust off. We're going to be treating it with Genolite rust converter to stop the rust in its tracks. Then we're going to zinc prime and protect it. Then over the top of that, we're going to be using the Tetra Shorts. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be undoing these T-clamps here. I mean, you can see a couple of them are leaking. I'll fix the leak on the front. So that was blowing from there, but now it's not. That's been sealed, but we'll be splitting that off from there and dropping this B pipe midsection and dropping the rear section off, just so we can get up behind here and up close and personal and protect all these bits that have concern. There's quite a few plastic clips. No doubt we'll have to replace a few of them. There's a couple of 10 mils holding them on as well. But we'll be putting some copper grease on any bolts that we take out to make sure that the threads are nice and clean. And if we have to re-tap them, we will. Only things will be done properly. As I said, there's quite a lot of clips. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across the back. Sorry, the lighting's not the best under here. I need to get some better lighting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across the back. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, say call it 15 plastic clips. And what we're going to be doing is try to undo them with one of these, which is a picky tool. We're going to try and pop them open without breaking them, which is easier said than done. Then we've got one of these tools, a clip pry, and we're going to be putting it all in a plastic Tupperware box so we don't lose any. So try and pry them off with your picky tool, just so you can get your little clip pry bar behind them. It's a good job we've got some of these Honda clips in stock, because we might need some. EP3s, FN2s, EJs, EKs, EGs all use these type of clips. Them cars are quite old now, so they usually just fall to bits when you take them off.
Vibe blowing at the J, got the loud jumping at the pay. Everything I'm on slack. Everything I do is got the the Benz jumping out the bag. Vibe blowing out my jack. Got the loud jumping out the pack. Everything I'm on slab. Everything I do is fuck. Got the Benz jumping out the bag. Another milestone.
So basically, when you've undone all the clips, you go and do the 10 mils. Luckily for me, I only lost one clip because it went to the shadow realm, and it would help if I get a 10 mil instead of a 9. Put the wrong one up. So these are 10 mils. They should come out nice and easy, but I can understand not all of them will. I'll leave these lot to soak in some oil. Remember to put everything in your little pot when you're finished, so you don't lose them. Got stuck. You're getting stuck in the socket. Got another plastic clip there I missed. That's a nice easy one. I've got to let this car dry out first before I start doing anything underneath. It's still quite damp under here because the weather's terrible outside, but using a heat gun and trying to dry her off as best as we can. Right, when you've took off the 447,625 clips and about 30 10 mils, jokes, but there's a lot, you're left with something that looks a little like this. You can see all this area where it's starting to get the surface rust on was hidden, and you would never have seen it. All up here, all along here on the sill, all across the front. The front subframe's corroded. Not awful, but enough for concern. Up here, and you would never have seen this if you look underneath the car, unless you take these monstrosities off, which is a bit of a pain in itself, but it's got to be done. More over here. As I say, they've got this like green epoxy stuff on, and it's done its job. This car's nearly 8 years old or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely time to protect it for the foreseeable. And with them chassis covers off, you can really start to see what you're missing. And next will be taking the exhaust off. Hopefully don't snap any bolts or clamps or whatever. So we're dousing them with the good old squirt juice, WD-40, and getting it off as big a sections as possible. This section, I'm not too sure whether it'd be the best to split it from there, but it might need to be done. But yeah, this is what you're left with. This is an aftermarket exhaust, as you can probably tell, so it's not necessarily going to be the same layout as the one you've got. I don't know what brand it is, but there's two 15s on these two T-clamps, one on each side, and they are C solid. So I'll let the squirt juice settle in a little bit longer. I know the front is 10 mil. They're not undoing, so I'll have to do them by hand. They're 13s, I think. But as I said, your exhaust will have a similar sort of layout. If it's an original one or aftermarket one, it'll probably be the same sort of layout as this. but just take it into account that it might not necessarily be the same way I take it off than to the way that you have to take yours off. A bit stiff on there, a bit seized up, but a little bit of gentle persuasion with a rubber mallet, a bit more squirt juice and a ratchet, and this section is sort of free. This aftermarket exhaust, the hangers overloop the rubber mounting, and it's going to be a bit of a pain to remove because I've got like a tool which is like a fork, and you squeeze it and it pushes a pin through, which would suffice for most exhausts. It's a proper exhaust hanger tool, but it's going to be a bit of a faff on here, so I'll figure that out when I come across it. Right, I removed the back section of the exhaust. I had to use a pry bar because I couldn't get my exhaust hanger tool, which I was on about, up behind there because of the design of the hangers. They're sort of like that, which is almost impossible, but in the centre, they've used the original hanger mount off the car. So pry bar, WD-40, and pried it off, and then pulled this end off. This clamp up in the middle, one of the bolts will snap if I try and undo it. The one's nice and free, but the other one, I don't want to risk it. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to drop the exhaust off the hangers, then I'm going to rest it onto a jack stand. So then I can move up behind the exhaust so I don't get any shorts on there for one, and two, I can get a wire wheel up to any areas of interest, and I can get a good clean on there and get any of the surface rust off. So now that the exhaust has been dropped, we can get all up amongst this section here. As I say, this bolt here will not undo. The one underneath, that will, but there's plenty of movement now. I can move it on the jack stand where I need it, so I can get it up and around out my way. I can get all up behind here, sort this boot area out, all up there, I can sort all that out. and you get the general picture. It's not the best filming today because there's some groundworks going on outside the unit, so all you can hear is tractorization going on and loads of noise, but we're doing our best, so bear with us. We're trying to speak loud and clear and give you easy enough instructions to follow. Right, so now our aim is to remove all these little rubber grommets, because obviously we're going to have to get the wire wheel up here and clean some of this off, but we don't want to be chewing these up. We're going to be using these to do the cavity wax, so we'll be poking the nozzle up there, up and down, and saturating the inside of the sills with cavity wax. Also, you've got these ones here, these bigger ones. These are the outer sill and these are the inner sill. And anyone who's owned an older Honda that's had rust issues in the past know that, especially EP3s, that these grommets usually hide a multitude of sins. So up behind there, they just rot out. So these sections on an EP3 rot out, and we don't want to be doing that on a FK2. So all these grommets out, then cavity wax. Right, so it's the next day. It's early in the morning. It's 7 AM and we're going to be hitting the car with a wire wheel. We let the car stand overnight to dry off. There was a lot of tractorization and groundworks going on outside the unit last night, so it was making it difficult to film. So I decided to let the car thaw out a little bit, and we're going to be hitting it with the wire wheel today, getting rid of all the surface rust and corrosion off bits and bobs, and then we're going to start the treatments.
That's me falling in and out so fast, holding you back, back, back. Guilty of the pain I caused and of the conscience I lack, lack, lack. I will hold your hand while I'm 1 foot out the door, and it's all because I don't need you anymore. Heartbeat
film under here. I'm sweating, goggles are all fogging up, but you get the general idea. Get the wire wheel, go over all the surface rust and all the loose stuff, get it back to as much metal as possible, ready for the rust converter. I'm going to carry on going amongst the car and getting the rest of it off, and then we'll move on to the next part. Right, so when you're happy that you stripped all the surface rust and that off underneath the car, off the subframes, rear beam and stuff, it's time for a rust converter. Use one of your zinc primer tins, the lids, 1-inch brush, and then get this all in the surface rust and all the areas you strip back, and that should kill all the rust. So let's go.
Run faster, man. Big blast in there.
Right, so that's all the rusty areas now stripped back and treated. The rust converter goes to almost black purpley colour when it's curing and it's reacting with the rust. Subframe's done. That'll be zinc primed. And while we're waiting for this to go off, we're going to be using the cavity wax, and we're going to be loading that in every one of these little holes that we're going to find. So all up in the inner and outer sills, all up in here. I'll strip that bit back there. All up in there. All up in the subframe. And everywhere else I can think of. If I can find a hole, it's getting filled. And yes, I did go back in, strip that little bit. Winning! Right, so that's all the holes and cavities waxed. You see a little bit there where it's blown out of one of the holes or one of the gaps. So all inside the holes, inside and outside sills are saturated with that stuff. A little bit there, a little bit of blowout. Subframe's done. All at the back's done. As I said, every little hole up there, all behind your rear seats, all behind the boot, all the little orifices, all up there, rear chassis rails, they're all done. As I said, front subframe, and yeah, jobs are good one. So what we're going to do now is dry off the remaining rust converter, and then we can start looking at zinc priming, and also we're going to wipe off some of this cavity wax as well from where it's leached out of the holes, so we can get a coat of zinc primer on underneath, adding more protection. Right, so that's the underbody of the car dried. We use a DeWalt heat gun, which is used for wrapping. So it's like a professional one, not just like a Black & Decker or something from B&Q. It's a proper heat wrap one. It was set to 400 degrees and it soon takes the moisture from underneath the vehicle and dries everything off nicely. So now we're on to zinc primer. This is an epoxy based one. Pop the lid off and we've got this little tool called a can gun. And I swear to God, it saves your fingers. If you can find one, that is, because I haven't found. I'd like to have another one, but I haven't found one for a while. So give the zincs a good shake for a couple of minutes. Get some heat into it as well, which will help separate everything inside and mix it up properly. Makes it easier to shake, but I can't heat gun, shake and talk at the same time. I can't multitask, sorry. But we'll be on to zinc priming the floor pan of the car. Winning. zinc primed. Rear beam, front subframe has been stripped back and zinc primed as well. Treated before that with a rust converter. So now it's time for the Schultz coating. And this is the underbody barrier, and this is the ultimate protection. I usually use Tetra Schultz, but being that it's cold outside, it doesn't really go on too good. It goes pretty thick and splodgy. Whereas this Pro Range stuff, still quite a nice liquid, but it still dries hard. It just got a better application for the weather. In hot weather, Tetra Schultz. Colder climates, colder weather, the Pro Range. I am going to look into other stuff to use, and I'm going to test it out like I did with the Buswell chassis guard and see if I prefer that or not. And I'm always going to stick to the best stuff that I find that I use, which is best for me basically. So, this time. Try again. Get too fat for this. Yes, this is what I call a Heisenberg suit, and it's going to keep the Schultz off me, especially my hair, because once it goes in your hair, it's like tar. It doesn't come out for days, and that's with vigorous washing. It's not nice. All over my face, so I'm going to have a nice Schultz tan, and yeah, let's get to it. So that's your Schultz gun. We're locked and we're loaded. Put some gloves on and ready to rock and roll. Right, so underbody is now Schultz coated. It's had 2 coats, left about an hour in between coats, and it takes 3.5 hours to fully cure. So every little nook and cranny, zoom you out, has been blasted with a Schultz coating for added protection. And this is a good barrier against the elements. I mean, because look, it's coming to winter, and you want to be getting this done before this sets in, ideally. But being that the car's now in the dry, we can get it done. And when it leaves here, it'll all be protected and dry underneath. And the Schultz coating will give you like a stippled effect, a bit like what you see underneath your cars anyway. But as you can see from the beginning of the video, these cars are not really protected in the slightest, which is piss poor from Honda, for me say so myself. But she's all coated underneath. And next up, a bit of chassis guard. And we'll be dropping the wheels off, doing all the suspension components. We'll give them a good clean up. We'll be doing the rear beam, all the front lower arms, the uprights, the subframe. Anything that's mechanical will not be getting done, but everything that's bolted to subframe, suspension components, etc., apart from brakes, obviously, we're getting chassis guard lanolin coated. Time for the chassis guard. We're going to do rear beam, suspension components, then we're going to go down and do the subframe and all that jazz. If you want to see a more in-depth video on me doing this, go and check out the Sierra videos. Let's go. Now we're talking. Right, so that is the coatings finished. All the lower arms, subframe, all up gearbox has all been chassis guarded with the lanolin. The problem areas, so I've actually Schultz the sills and then gone over with the chassis guard as well to add another added barrier of protection and make it hydrophobic so water won't actually get to it. Rear beam's been done, refurbed. I say refurbed, I've stripped it back, treated it for any surface rust, then zinc primed, then covered with the chassis guard. As I said, all the little problem areas, all the bits which tend to rust on this car has all been covered with the chassis guard, so it's got an extra year's worth of protection over the top of the Schultz winning. So up next is basically putting the car back together, putting the exhaust back on, all that. And then what else we got to do is do a full service, bar, spark plugs and air filter, because it's got a pretty expensive aftermarket induction kit on it, so it doesn't need an air filter. Spark plugs have just been changed because it's just had a remap. This car's 400 plus horsepower now. So it literally just been done. So yeah, winning. So it's the next day. Everything's gone off underneath. The shorts is nice and dry. The wet patches are where we have used the chassis guard lanolin as extra protection over the top, and that takes a little longer to go off, but that's all done. We've got the wheels off. I had to get creative and get the locking nuts off, which was a 2-hour ordeal, to say the least, and not the greatest of days, if I'm honest. A lot of hair pulling, but inside the rear arches, there's like a carpet. Crap design. They shouldn't do it. They should have just undersealed under there like they usually would, but we're going to pull this out, put some Schultz behind there and some chassis guard, and job's a good one. Also the same with the front. We're going to put some Schultz in there as well, and should be a win. We can get the wheels back on. Then onto a service. Winning. Right, so up in the rear arches, you've got this horrible sound deadening carpet stuff which always constantly stays wet. But behind here, it's pretty mint, to be honest, and the actual chassis itself. So what we're going to do is give it a good clean, and we're going to Schultz behind here, winning.
I shouldn't want you, I shouldn't need you, but I'm afraid that's not up to me. Cause when I hear you sing through my speakers, it's like my mind takes a hold of me. I've tried shutting you off for some time now, but I'm still hearing your voice in my head. Oh, I wish I was more than your fan now, and that your voice came from here in my bed. You're in my headphones, baby, in my headphones, baby, in my headphones, singing to me. You're in my headphones, baby, in my headphones, baby, in my headphones, making me bleed. You're in my singing to me. You're in my headphones, baby. baby, in my headphones, baby, in my head.
You're in my
So there we have it, guys, a comprehensive guide to how to protect your underbody of your FK2 for years to come. I've gone through every little process. Hopefully you follow along. You've got all the products that we use. All we've got to do now is put it back together, but you see now it all come apart. So rinse and repeat. Just go back to the beginning and then you'll see how to put your car back together. There's going to be a second part, which will be a full service on the car. New oils, all Honda service parts, genuine, of course. And yeah, if this is something that you'd like to have done on your own vehicle, if it's a bit out of your comfort zone, don't forget to give us a shout, give our page a like, give these videos a like, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace out.